Good evening, Jeopardy fans, and we are live once again here on hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, presented by thejeopardyfan.com. As always, I am Andy Saunders, and I will be moderating tonight's discussion. We've got an excellent panel here for you this evening. All four of our panelists have never been on live panel before, so I will do the introductions in order of when you first appeared on the program. So the first panelist I will introduce this evening, she appeared in late March of 2017. Welcome to hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, Tricia Riley.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, our second panelist won a couple of games, a couple in the opening week of the season. Congratulations and welcome to hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, Ellen Wernecke.
Hi.
Our third panelist this evening was on the September the 15th episode. Welcome to hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, Julien Corven.
Hi, great. Thanks to be here.
And last and certainly not least from last Wednesday's episode, welcome to hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, Julie Roth.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Okay, so as always, if you've got a question or a comment for tonight's panel, there's the hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel on Twitter. I do keep an eye on that during the panel. And there's also the YouTube chat as well that you can leave a comment there. If I see your comment and I like the comment, I will certainly read it out to the panel for you. So, my first question for everyone but Tricia, I guess, because obviously Tricia, you're back from a few months ago, but for the three more recent contestants, how hard was it waiting from April to September for your episodes to air?
Yeah, it was pretty tough because so many people are asking about it, and they're like, "I just want to know." I'm like, "I can't tell you." And just, it just seems so far away, and all of a sudden it was just like the next day. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe how quickly that passed. But so in some ways it was really long, in some ways it was disturbingly short. So
Yeah, for me it was complicated because between the time that I taped and the time that it aired, like a lot of things changed in my life. So when I taped, and I asked the contestant coordinators, I'm like, so my job is changing. Like, what do you want me to put? So I was a math teacher, and I'm now a full-time graduate student in math education. So it was interesting because, my whole school, when I went on, they were very much, they were very excited for me. They were very behind me. They're like, we want to know what's going on. And then like on top of that, I'm not even going to be employed there when the show finally airs. So it was very difficult for that reason, but certainly the stick of we have your money, and if we find out you squealed, you don't get it, definitely helped keep things quiet.
Yeah, for me, it seems like the worst was right when I got back from taping, when a few people knew that I had taped, and then right before the show aired. That was when I got all the like, oh, so how'd you do? What'd you win? How's it going? In the middle, it's not that I forgot that I was going to be on TV, but like life things, you have to do your laundry and cook, and like stuff happens. So it wasn't too bad, but then it got very surreal very quickly once the new season actually started.
yeah.
Now, Tricia, how long was the wait between your tape date and your air date?
It was about 4 months. I taped in December, like about December 12th, and aired March 29th. So I didn't wait as long as you guys, but I waited a bit. So it was a lot of playing coy. You'll have to watch to find out. So, but yeah, as the day drew closer, it did feel surreal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, my next question, I think I'm going to kind of lump this all into the subject of Final Jeopardy betting. Part A, I think of this, I'm going to direct Ellen your way, and there seem to be a lot of people who were confused by your Final Jeopardy bet on your first episode.
Yes, that's true. And I know you guys talked about this last week on live panel, so I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure I can explain my thinking. I definitely wasn't thinking as strategically as Jen in terms of the tie vote versus, I think I was just trying to kind of go for broke and see if I had gotten it right, you know, how much more I could take home. I don't think I realized the risk I was setting myself up for. So I can't really disagree with everybody on Twitter and so on who said that it was not a smart betting strategy, because it really wasn't. And I panicked a little bit. It worked out for me, but of course that was kind of a fluke.
Now, Julien, you obviously saw that from the audience. You are a math teacher. You are in math. You're a graduate student in mathematics, or mathematics education, I believe. So, did that affect how you were? You know, how you went into your game being, or I should say, first of all, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Were you, did you actually see that happening from the bullpen before you got called to tape?
Yes. So Sarah and I, Sarah was the other contestant on the show with Ellen and me. We were actually sitting together, so we saw the whole thing go down, and we were just like, oh my goodness! Like more so with regards to Jen's bet. We were surprised that she had chosen to bet 0, but you know, we were definitely thinking about it. Of course, then in our game, it didn't really matter because Ellen had it at a runaway, and at that point, you know, I'm sitting there. It's like I'm just trying to, like, I'm playing for second. And I'm trying to not look like an idiot on national television. So I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to end with 0. I'm going to bet. I had 7,200. I'm like, I'm going to bet 7,000. It doesn't really matter. There's really nothing I can do. I was assuming that both Sarah and Ellen were going to bet logically. The only time that wagering really kind of came up in our game was on the final daily double, which Sarah got. And I'm sitting next to her going like, wager big. This is the only way I have a chance. And then she goes, I'll go 1,200. And I go, oh, okay. I mean, it's not my clue. It's not my call. So I'm not going to second guess her. But then the clue comes up. I'm like, I know this one. Why couldn't I have gotten this one? But Ellen played a great game. Like, she ran away with it. The thing I remember most about the whole thing is when we were there talking with Alex. And I just remember you turning to us going, I am so sorry, you guys. And we're like, what are you sorry for? She's like, I was a comp lit major.
I got a couple good categories. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, like literally that whole state of literature category, the only one of those books that I had ever even read was Twilight. I will admit that I had read that one, and all the rest I'm like, I don't know if I've even heard of this one. Not my forte. So, you know, and then the Daily Double was there, and that, you know, let you pull ahead. And so, you know, I'm just really happy with the whole experience and how it turned out. But definitely, I see a lot of talk about contestants not really understanding what is the correct betting strategy, particularly in Final Jeopardy. I mean, Daily Doubles, you have 5 seconds to figure out what you're going to wager. You don't have time to do math, and even if you do, it's very easy to make a mistake. Final Jeopardy, they give you the time, they give you the index cards, they give you the pen, they let you do your calculations to sort of figure out strategically what you want to do. And, you know, contestants make different strategic choices, and the category comes into play, and perceptions of the other competitors comes into play. But you have the time to kind of make a strategic wager. So, you know, and I'm not going to speak for Ellen. I think she can speak to it, but definitely with her wager on the second day, it was clear that she had, you know, gotten the strategy a little bit down.
You have the time to figure your wager at Final Jeopardy, but you don't have a lot of, you don't have a quiet moment, really. There's still a lot of hubbub going on around you, and I'm not a math person, so I think in the end, I just sort of said, I'm just going to bet it all. Just bet it all except $1, because I kind of figured everybody was had a very good chance of getting it right. Words in the News 2016. So I thought everybody had a decent chance to get it right. So I just went for it. But I wasn't in a state where I could really do a lot of calculating and strategy at that point.
Mhm.
Now, one thing I actually went looking back at your episode, Tricia, your opponent, very similar to a few of our recent champions in that they certainly had issues with betting to cover, because I think Julie Brennan, the lady who beat you in her first game, she didn't bet to cover, and the game she lost, she didn't bet to cover. So I thought did you kind of take a notice of that? Do you remember when you were on?
I don't know if I took it all in the moment when I was there. And I don't remember the final wagering in the first game that she won. She won the game. I was her second game.
Right.
Her
Yeah.
second win. Yeah. But I was in second place. I was fairly close. And if she hadn't quite, I think my only hope was if she didn't quite wager enough. And she did by $401. So
Yeah.
it was just a Hail Mary by me, but yeah.
The one episode where she did bet to cover was the one where that you were in. So it's like, darn it.
Yeah, with mine, I kind of, my attitude was, I was like, I knew, because I was the third game to go, so I knew Betsy, I'm like, she's probably going to know it. Like, I've seen her play, I'm like, she's probably going to know this, whatever the question is. So I have to bet that if she doubles her score, she bets everything, I can still beat her. So that's why, and I couldn't even tell you what number I bet, but it was enough that it would have beaten her. She would have bet all. And then once the question started, all I could think, I was like, I'm not gonna win, I'm not gonna win, I'm not gonna win. And some people on Twitter, I know they said like, oh, like she didn't bet well, whatever. But for me, I thought, well, first place, second place is at $2,000, third place is $1,000. It's not a huge difference in the amount of money you have. So I'm like, if I bet not very much, I can only get second place, And so I thought, you know what, it's a show, it's my one time, I'm just gonna go big. So that was my mindset with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and for sure. And I would personally say that there was nothing wrong with your bet, and so that was at least how I look at it. Obviously, you had you gotten the question right, you would have won the game, and that's all you can ask.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, on that final Jeopardy, Betsy, how quickly did it seem to you? How quickly did it seem like Betsy had gotten that one?
I wasn't even paying attention. I was just in my own little world. I just was racking my brain, and I didn't even pay attention. I know Justin, my other, the other player, he and I had talked about it afterward, and we both kind of got down the wrong track. I was thinking, okay, B with the Canadian province, British Columbia. And so, and he said, I thought the same thing. And obviously we went down a road that was not going to lead to anything. And so, once they said New Brunswick and then Nebraska, I was like, oh my gosh, duh, like I should have gone with that. But I just, 30 seconds, it wasn't enough time to turn around and go think in a different direction. So.
Yeah. The 30 seconds seems like so much longer on the couch.
Yes.
Like, of course, if you know it, then you're like, why are we waiting so long to get it right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, when you're up there, it's like, oh, did I have time to spell this correctly? I don't even know. I guess it's over.
Yeah. I was trying to think of anything. I'm like, write something down, and I just couldn't. So I just wrote a question mark and let the last fraction of a second. So.
Yeah.
I honestly
mine was an 8-letter word, right? Godspeed was the answer. And I was wondering if they were going to show it, but they didn't really show me counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I honestly did not know the answer for my final Jeopardy for the first 20 seconds. It literally came to me. I needed the whole 30 seconds to figure it out and make sure that I had written it down, because I had originally thought the same direction as Fraternal Order of Police, but then I was like, no, that's not right, and I misremembered the category because it was global organizations. I misremembered it as international organizations, and that helped me get to Interpol. So
Oh.
yeah, so that actually helped me. But my recollection of it and the way it got shown on TV did not match at all. I remember like my hand covering my mouth and being like, oh my gosh, I don't know this. Like, I am going to look so stupid. And then it like magically came to me. So
That's awesome.
So, now, Ellen, did you actually stick around the audience and watch any games after you lost, or did you just head out right away?
I did not. Because of my games and where they fell, I was there the whole day and then played Thursday and Friday's game and then got up the next morning. And luckily my mom and my uncle were able to come to the studio and watch from the studio audience. And so, I hadn't really gotten the chance to talk that much to them the day before. We weren't supposed to wave or smile or anything at them. So, we kind of cut out of the studio, and I hadn't really been able to eat breakfast. I was very nervous. So, I had a nice lunch, walked around a little bit in California in the sunshine, just to kind of get a break. Although, I definitely look forward to seeing all those games on TV now that I'm back. I'm like, oh yeah, her, like, who knew she was going to be the breakout, that kind of thing.
Yep. Okay, so no, Julie, I guess that means you were probably you are definitely the only one who was in the studio when Tuesday's game happened. And I am really curious to know what your recollection was regarding Tuesday's Final Jeopardy.
Was that
That was the Royal Crown one.
Yeah, as soon as I finished, and I left after my game too, and I was like, why couldn't it end mine final? I was like, man, I knew it. So yeah, that was, and then when I talked to my family afterward, we all had the same opinion. We're like, oh yeah, right away, we got it, And I know the game before me was something about a book in the Bible, like the shortest one, and that one I had no idea. And that was one, if I would have gotten the category of the Bible, I would just bet zero. I wouldn't even messed around with it. But with my category, I was like, oh, I should know this. But.
So, do you recall them, was there any sort of judges discussion or tape stoppage to figure out whether or not to accept what was on Betsy's screen?
Can you remind me of what was on there? It's just kind of all a blur.
Okay, sorry. That was her screen was basically it had what is Royal Crown and then Crown Royal in parentheses below that.
Uh-huh.
And there was a lot of controversy online last week as to whether or not her response should have been accepted, and I was just curious to know if the judges had had any sort of discussion regarding that.
Not to my memory, no. I don't remember. Again, it's kind of all a blur, but because I think at that point I was just kind of running an adrenaline, thinking about what I was going to do for my own game. But I don't remember any sort of. I mean, maybe there was. I don't know, but I don't think there was. I don't remember any stalling or thinking something was amiss. So.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, were there any other stoppages that you remember? Did they have to stop tape at all when you were in the studio?
I think we didn't have any that needed to be corrected over break, where they say, oh, we reviewed the answer or whatever. The only things I remember was just Alex, just during commercial break, having to re-record, some of the clues. But I don't remember any, tape stoppage or anything like that, so.
Okay.
So we had an interesting one our week. I want to say that it was Wednesday's game.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
So what happened was when the Final Jeopardy clue came up, the last two words of the clue didn't display on the screen.
Oh.
And so before anyone revealed their answers, they said, stop, hold. They made everyone turn around. They conferred. And basically they said, we can't replay it because everyone's seen it. And now they've had more time to think and people might change it. We're throwing out this Final Jeopardy and redoing it.
Wow.
And they came up, they got a new Final Jeopardy clue. They let everyone rewager. They had to re-record just Alex's response to the last answer in Double Jeopardy and the introduction of the new category. So that was the only significant one, other than the one stoppage with the bird cage and the La Cage aux Folles. But I thought it was interesting that happened. It's like we had to throw out the whole Final Jeopardy and redo.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say something similar happened, but it wasn't Final Jeopardy. It was just one of the regular Jeopardy questions. The question didn't come up visually on the screen, so they stopped. We all had to turn around. I don't know whether they must have thrown that question out, but yeah. So I guess maybe it happens more than you think. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. When they had to retape that final, at first I thought, boy, I'm just not understanding this clue at all. I'm glad I didn't get this Final Jeopardy question because something is not right. But I figured it was just me not understanding the question. And then it took a surprisingly long time for them to set everything back up and go back into that question. I can't imagine what it was like for the contestants. They were probably just like wanting to sink into the floor, like, okay, we're just gonna wait for our fates right here.
And I remember afterwards, one of the contestant coordinators said, "Oh, we're so glad everyone got it right." Just because, like, it made everyone feel, but like you would feel really bad if you were like, "Oh, I knew the one that got thrown out, and then I missed this other one."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But that's something that certainly happens. If you've at least. Contestants should be prepared for the eventuality that there could be a technical issue and they have to throw out a clue, and it's the obviously throwing it out is the fairest thing that they can do for everyone, even if you happen to know one but not the other. So I'm going to kind of move things a little bit. A new segment here I've started on #Jeopardy Live Panel. I've called it See You Again. And it's basically where I bring up a subject that has come up in the past week, and I kind of ask the panel if they want to see that, if they would be happy seeing that again on Jeopardy. And for this one, I think this one, I hope this one isn't too touchy of a subject for you, Julie, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. The subject is the category, the next state capital alphabetically. How do we feel about that as a panel? Do we want to see it again on Jeopardy or not?
I mean, for me, I don't think it's a bad, question or whatever. I just, obviously, I'm, like you said, I'm kind of personally biased against it. But I know when I've talked to a lot of people, they're like, oh, I would have said, like, Albuquerque or something like that, so I'm like, well, okay, I guess it's, I just kind of got bogged down in like the alphabetical system and just thinking of like any geographical place. So super embarrassing for me. I did get some haters on Twitter about it, but I mean, I'm sure the other ones are fine. I knew Montpelier, so that was exciting, but the other, it's just, I don't know.
I thought it was really hard, for the record. I was not getting any of them on the couch with no pressure on me. So, those state capitals, they don't always sync up with the biggest cities or the cities that you think of,
Yeah, and I did study a little bit with state capitals. That was something actually when the Montpelier came up, I was like, yes, I read that the other day, but and probably wouldn't have known it, but yeah, I don't just, like you said, you don't know what you're going to say until you're sitting on the stage and there's a camera and, you're under hot lights. So, yeah.
Tricia and Julien, how did you feel about that category?
I thought it was tough also. Yeah, I also was on the couch. I think maybe if I'd had a couple more seconds for each one, I might have come up with them, but it was tough.
Yeah, I feel like that's like it could be an okay Final Jeopardy, maybe just because of the additional think time. Mm-hmm. I just feel like that's a lot to put on someone in that time situation. And like, I mean, the other thing is I know there's a song that does all the states in alphabetical order, which is what I was doing in my head when trying to answer the province question on the couch.
I'm pretty sure I learned that one too.
Yeah, and I recall there might be one for state capitals. So it's one of those things where if you have that very specific like knowledge bit in your head, mm-hmm. Then you're advantaged. And otherwise, it's just sort of luck of the draw. And like, did you live in the state in question that is the next one? You're like, oh, like yeah, it's going to come to me. Mm-hmm. I would give that category a thumbs down.
Yeah.
do you think it might be better suited for a Tournament of Champions?
Oh, wait, sorry, I thought I must have.
I just don't think it's that interesting a category to begin with. So
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not much into like the geography type questions anyway, so again, I'm biased. Like whenever we do trivia with my friends, that's always like my weakest category. So, of course personally, I would like to see all geography stripped from Jeopardy, but that doesn't seem to be a reasonable suggestion. So.
Yeah.
And what about the Canadian contestants? Like, how fair is that to know all 50 U.S. state capitals? I probably can't name the capitals of the provinces.
I apparently don't know much about them, so.
Well, I think geography is Alex's favorite category, so I would.
Oh,
of course.
I would probably say it will be a lot, in Jeopardy for or on Jeopardy, I should say, for a very, very long time.
I will say regarding geography that my one regret when I watched the tape was the C's category, and we had all Ellen and Sarah and I had all joked before, we were like, we'll be fine as long as there's no history or geography. But the C's category, as soon as you're not under the lights and you don't have the memory in your head of, oh, I missed something earlier, you're just like, I knew that one, I should have rang in on that one, why didn't I ring in on that one? So that was my one regret in the rewatch. Like I should have done more in that category. So I have let down the National Geographic Society, who kindly sponsored the National Geography Bee in 5th and 8th grade.
So, moving on to some of my more standing questions here on #Jeopardy Live Panel. I'm thinking, looking at this, I think only a couple of you may be able to actually answer this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Obviously, between the Wednesday and Thursday episodes, there's a lunch break in which the remaining contestants get the opportunity to eat lunch on Sony's dime at the Commissary. So for those of you who had that opportunity, feel free to answer. What did you have for lunch? Do you remember?
You know what? After I watched the panel last week, I was thinking about this because I do not. I think I had a turkey sandwich. Here's what I remember the most clearly. It was the day of the Chicago or the Boston Marathon, right? And I'm like a running fan, so I kept craning my neck to look at CNN to see if they would show who won. Because the race, I knew the race had been run a couple hours earlier, and we were on kind of a news blackout. I wasn't looking at my phone. No one was telling me anything. And I was like, just show the race for 1 minute. Just give me a name. And of course, if I had been at my desk, I probably would have been live streaming the whole thing. But yeah, I really was a little bit nervous and maybe not inclined to eat that much. Yeah. So that was my commissary experience. I did not see any famous people that I know of, but that's all right.
One thing, I just have to get my charger while you guys are answering this, so I'm not running away. I'm just getting real quick.
Okay.
I know I also had a sandwich of some sort, and I think it was probably turkey. The thing I remember the most about it was how long it took to go from putting your slip into it being done. And yes. I'm just like the whole time. And I can't remember, one of the contestant coordinators just like, oh, go get your drink and stuff while you're waiting. And I'm like, but what if they call me and I'm not here? And it's very crowded because it's a big lunchtime and there's a lot of people there. And so I'm just like, no, I'll just wait here. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's my lunch memory.
They're trying to watch. Oh, sorry. Who did I call?
I was about to say that Jen recalled last week being everyone else took so long to get their lunch, and I had gotten pizza and I was sitting there and I was waiting for everyone, and
that's a champ.
I was specifically staying away from pizza just because of the cheese and stomach things. That's not what you want when you're already feeling nervous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I love cheese. I'm sure I had a sandwich with cheese of some kind on it. But But yeah, wow, I don't remember. I know they were trying to keep track of us so we wouldn't, I don't know, run away onto the lot or something. So they kept giving us the eye, like, don't stray away too far. And meanwhile, I'm looking at all the beverages thinking, do I want a lemonade? Do I want an iced tea? I don't know. What do I like? So there wasn't much damage that I was going to, just go rogue, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I taped a Wednesday show, so technically I was done before lunch, but they did, tell me that I could go if I wanted to, but my brother couldn't join us. So I just said, well, I'll watch the rest of the shows as they air. So I opted out on the lunch.
And did you leave? So you left right afterwards as well, Julie, and didn't get...
Did you say Julie or Julien?
I said Julie. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, we left. I was planning on staying, but honestly, I just was so tired and also starving. So I was like, let's get out of here. So we went out for sushi.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So did any of you guys have any sort of Slumdog Millionaire moments when you were on stage, having, some great story as to how you happened to know one of the answers you got?
So the one clue in the Vietnam War that I got was propaganda. And I am a huge fan of the card game Magic the Gathering, which Tim Ayton, who was a 7-time champ, I think, he used to work for Wizards of the Coast, which is the company that makes Magic the Gathering. But propaganda is the name of a very, very iconic Magic card. So when that came up, I'm like, I know this one.
Nice.
So that was the one that really resonated with me. So when I live tweeted, I gave them a little shout out, like, thanks Wizards Magic. I got this answer. That's the name of the card in this really nerdy game that I love.
I have played Magic the Gathering, so I'm not familiar with that card, however, but it's been a while. Mine, I think, was I got a daily double for the Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which takes place in Savannah, Georgia. I'd been there twice, once with some very good friends about a year or two ago, and then once several years ago to see some close friends of ours get married. So it was nice to hit that and to think of them and know that they, were cheering me on, sort of. It was kind of like a little nod to the good times that I'd had there. So that was nice to get.
Nice.
I had not a video, but a picture clue, which was Plymouth Rock. And being from Massachusetts, I think if I had gotten that one wrong, I might have been in a lot of trouble. So that's the only connection I can think of.
Yeah, with the British playwrights, the first one was Christopher Marlowe, which I probably would have known anyway, but I had just finished teaching Dr. Faustus in my Brit Lit class. So that was kind of cool. It's like, well, I definitely can't miss this one, but it was nice timing for that. So.
Nice, yeah. So, with regards to your interviews with Alex Trebek, did he talk about what you thought he'd talk about?
I wish he wouldn't have chosen mine, but
what do you wish he talked about then?
I had some other ones that were kind of like more of like weird situation type ones, like things that could be like not like funny or like just kind of more, I don't know. I was kind of caught off guard, and I would, before the show, I was like, okay, start thinking, because they say like, oh, you're gonna have to answer one of these, so try to be cogent in your response. And so I was trying to like think it through it, but I was just so nervous about so many other things that, the other ones I had pretty, they were stories, so I could remember them better. Whereas this one wasn't necessarily a story. So it was something I had to like, explain what I do for a living. And I was like, I don't know, sonnets, hip hop. I felt it's pretty heavily edited, I'll put it that way. So.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he was going to ask about the tattoo. Like that's absolutely no doubt in my mind. That was the story that I knew he was going to ask about.
Sorry, what was it, Julien?
So I have a math equation tattooed on my arm. It's Euler's identity. So yeah, and I kind of suspected when I went to the audition, and that was like the one that the practice interview was asked about it. I'm like, and then, you get on and they're like, which of these three do you want him to ask you about? I'm like, let's go with the tattoo one. Like, that's the most interesting.
Now, Ellen, I know you had a few interviews with Alex. Did he talk about what you thought he'd talk about? And also, kind of a follow-up to that, did Wazelle give you any sort of shout-out or anything fun for the buzz marketing you gave them on the air?
I'll take the second question first. I did get a couple of very nice tweets and messages from some other members of the team, saying how excited they were to see me on there, and I felt like it was probably my strongest game across the 3 games I played. So that was a nice bonus to have them see me in kind of a positive form. But yeah, honestly, I can't remember all of the fun facts I put down. I remember struggling very hard to come up with them and seeing the contestant questionnaire with questions like, what's a story that you're really embarrassed about that you'd never tell anybody? Why don't you write that down and have a lot of people read it? I mean, I'm no fool. I wasn't going to do that. I certainly have plenty of embarrassing stories that I could have told. But it was nice to talk about my job, at least, in kind of a sentence or two. I know that watching with my office, people got a real kick out of that. So that was positive for me. I think honestly, having appeared on Jeopardy is probably going to be my fun fact from here on out in terms of when I have to provide a fun fact about myself, but you can't really use that on the show because then everyone would use it.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what the other things were on your interview card, Tricia?
I really struggled to find anything interesting. So it was my work as a nurse practitioner. But then I think something about how I ski pretty much every weekend all winter in a ski club. Really, really boring stuff. And I wonder if the third one, I had written down just a story about how my father, who didn't hear that well, always called him Alex Cravat. So I think I said something about he thought his name was like an article of men's clothing. They did not use that, and I was not surprised that they did not use that. So yeah, we just talked about work, which is fine.
Okay, so moving on. Kind of also talking a little bit, and I know this was brought up by you a little bit already, Julien, but do you remember what your discussions with Alex were and the other contestants kind of on stage post game?
So the two things, there's 3 things that I remember. The first was that, we all come out and he's like, and it's the Friday episode. So he's like, I'm ready to get in my pickup truck and drive home. He's like, I'm ready to be out of here. I'm going to go home. He was going to have some libation. I couldn't, a potent potable of some variety. And then I remember, like I said before, I remember Ellen apologizing for knowing books. And then there was discussion of Carmen Sandiego.
Yes.
Between that and Interpol. So that was what I remember about it. And I'm sure that there was a lot more that was said, but like the music's playing and you're there and just trying to, act really natural, and you're coming off this adrenaline rush of like, I just taped Jeopardy. Like no matter what happened, like I just did this, and now you want me to stand here and act natural? Okay. I will do my best.
Yeah, with ours, he had said, he told us, he's like, well, I obviously reads through the questions every day, and he said, a lot of these I just didn't know who would possibly know them, and you guys did. And I was telling this story to some people at our Jeopardy party, and everyone's like, he probably just says that to everyone. I was like, well, thanks a lot, but I was like, maybe not. So that was really like, he was just very pleasant and just, just complimentary. So I was kind of nervous, I guess, to talk to him, but it was, it was fine.
From my experience, I feel like Alex is very sincere at that point of the game. Obviously, because he knows. I mean, he's the camera isn't, or the camera's on, but the sound isn't. So there's there's a chance for you guys to kind of have that conversation that the mics haven't picked up on. So
he was actually very sweet in our contestant chat, I thought, because he was just he kind of focused on because I had been in the red and I had been at 0 for a while, and I came back and came kind of close, and he said, wow, a lot of people give up, but you didn't. What a great comeback. That was great. And it kind of made up for the fact, his comments, I guess, but before contestant chat during the game, and I was at the first podium, so he was standing there before we started up again. I had answered John Kerry instead of John McCain in my daily double. And he said, well, John Kerry wasn't a pilot. I just had to smile and say, yeah, I know. But I couldn't think of anyone else. That was a more classic Alex moment, or what people think of a classic Alex moment.
Yeah, I know that I have one or two people, or there are one or two people on Twitter who refer to that, I believe, as a Trebeking, but that sounds like it was sorry, go ahead.
So there was actually something that happened during one of the breaks when he comes out to talk to the audience. One of the most frequent questions that got asked was, when are we going to see the mustache again? And someone phrased it as, what happened to the mustache? And he says, oh, it's in my dressing room, I just don't feel like wearing it. And goes, I'll take it. And he says, I'll take the mustache. And he says, no, that's fine. The one you have looks just great.
Oh, I don't remember this. Why don't I remember this? Oh,
I think you might have been on stage. Oh. I think
I was freaking out. Yeah.
It must have been the Thursday game, because Sarah and I were sitting next to each other, and we both just went, holy dream.
My mom kind of had a funny reaction. She told me about this later, but during my game, someone had asked, oh, what would be, if you didn't do Jeopardy, what would be your dream job? And he said, oh, I'd be the Pope. And my mom whispered to some other contestant's family member, only because he can't be God. And I was like, mother. She's like, I feel so bad now because you told me what a nice man he is, and I can't believe I said that. I'm like, I'm sure other people have said things like that too, Mom. Don't worry. She's very concerned about, what she said about Alex. I'm like, I'm sure people said a lot worse things. So.
So did you guys have any sort of watch party when you aired?
Well, like I mentioned, I watched with my office because Jeopardy airs in the middle of the afternoon here. I made cookies because I didn't know what else to do and I was stressed. It was very good. I got a lot of jokes about not knowing that Scrooge McDuck is not Huey, Dewey, and Louie's uncle, and also for getting Richard Branson wrong. I'd just like to thank everybody who wrote to me and said Scrooge McDuck is a great uncle, which counts as an uncle. I appreciate your support. But it was really fun to do, and I ended up rewatching it later at night with my husband. But being able to watch it live and hear everybody, kind of go along for the ride was pretty fun.
Yeah, we had probably about 20-something people over. It was a lot of my colleagues, our friends in the area, and we live about 1,200 miles away from home, so there was none of our family was there. But I just made a bunch of food and just kind of was just stuffing my face as while watching the show, but yeah, it was nice to have people there because they were cheering and then just saying oh my gosh, I wouldn't have known that, or with the marine biology category, I was kind of telling them I have no idea what's going on here, or I was kind of just trying to explain my mindset with some of them, and a lot of it I didn't remember. I don't know if you guys felt like that, but all the questions I was like, I don't even remember answering this. I don't even remember this being a category. It's just a total blur. So
yeah.
That's certainly a common thing I hear a lot from people on live panel for sure.
Yeah.
Tricia and Julia, go ahead, Tricia.
Oh, I had a watch viewing party at a pub. An Irish pub, so I probably had somewhere 20, 25 people there, plus also the other patrons that were there that weren't expecting it. And So they put it on all the TVs, and the lucky thing was it aired on a Wednesday, and this was during the NCAA March Madness time. But I guess they don't have Wednesday games, so I lucked out and I wasn't preempted there. But it was a lot of fun with everybody cheering, even the patrons that I didn't know. They got into it and were cheering, and the waitress was like, "It's so weird. You're here and you're on the TV." It was a good time. Good time.
I did not do a watch party, mostly just because of some practical considerations. You know, at the time, like I thought that I was going to have class earlier that afternoon, and so there was a travel thing. And then with my husband's work, you know, he usually gets home around 6, so it would have been like a really quick turnaround to go do something. So we went to my sister-in-law's house, and we watched it with her and her family. So it was we were with other people, but we kept it small. And I was like, well, you know, I'm just going to live tweet the whole thing, because why not? You know, just rather than like having the people ask, like, what were you thinking about this one? Like, I'm just like, let me just put it out there. And, you know, people can watch along and read what I was thinking, and, you know, what's going through my mind afterwards. I definitely think that the one thing that was the craziest in the rewatch was there was a question, the clue comes up, I'm like, don't know that one, and then there's me ringing in with the answer. I'm like, I guess I did know it.
That again,
I was a little nervous about having that people would say, why did you have a party when you lost, you know? But luckily people just got into they took the trip with me, and so it was fun. But I was like a little leery about that. But
Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt like, and it sounds so irrational, but I was like, oh, I just feel like everyone's going to be like disappointed. And I'm like, and you know, like my husband was like, that's crazy. You know, like obviously that's not what people are going to be like. They're your friends, they're your colleagues. But yeah, I did kind of feel the same way. Like, oh, I'm going to let everyone down. And I'm like, it's a TV show. Like it's, you know, it's not the end of the world. So yeah.
okay, yeah, that's very nice. We'll move on to our next question. What else did you guys do when you were out in Culver City?
I ended up going to a walk with a friend who lives in LA to a cemetery. I wish I remembered the name of it, but you know, one of these like huge Hollywood cemeteries, lots of old Hollywood figures. Al Jolson is buried there. Leonard Nimoy is also buried there. So we went out looking for his memorial, which is very pretty and a very placid place. And between my two games, I was able to get dinner with my mom and my uncle somewhere in Century City. Again, I forget where, but we had a little pizza and, you know, just kind of caught up because I hadn't seen them since the holidays, and, you know, we were in a festive mood.
Yeah, we were there over Easter weekend, so yeah, we also had some time as well. You know, we came up Saturday and didn't leave till Tuesday. But yeah, we went to Joshua Tree. We went to Hollywood Forever. Is that where you went, Ellen?
Possibly, I'm not sure. I wish I remembered.
Yeah, I got to see Estelle Getty's grave, so that was pretty exciting, you know. But
good. That's a good get.
Yeah, we went on a celebrity tour, wax museum. Like we did a lot of that corny kind of stuff. But yeah, the Sunday, or I guess it was Easter, before my episode, we went to Joshua Tree, so it was kind of zen and, you know, just like a relaxing thing to do the day before. So
my husband and I went to the movies. Honestly, we didn't do anything too special. We went to see Beauty and the Beast and just relaxed, because I mean it was like Julie said, it was Easter weekend. You know, I had been on spring break the week before, and then I had the Monday off, but then I had to take the Tuesday and the Wednesday off. You know, Tuesday in case they needed me, and then Wednesday because that I couldn't get a late enough flight on Tuesday. So we flew out very early Wednesday morning, but Tuesday, like we talked about doing some things, but just, you know, it's not like LA is a huge city and it's not what we're used to. Like you need a car for anything. We hadn't rented a car. We looked at how much it would cost to Uber around and we were like, nope. So we just walked to the movies and did that.
Yeah, we didn't do much. We didn't rent a car either. That was probably a mistake. So we were Ubering around. We did a studio tour, and ate out a couple of nice meals, but we didn't do too much sightseeing.
Yeah, we
Just kind of decompressed a bit.
Yeah, we rented a car. We did a lot of like food stuff, but not like fancy restaurants. We went to In-N-Out Burger, and we got some tacos, stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm a big into eating when I travel. So I'm all about doing the big stops. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There was a request on the YouTube chat to talk about tonight's game a little bit. So I just want to say that I don't think I can oblige with that. I'm sorry, just because a couple of reasons. The West Coast hasn't seen the game as the time we've taped. Also, Tricia, you also haven't seen tonight's game, so I don't want to spoil things for you. I'll give you the opportunity to watch that and enjoy it. So, unfortunately, discussion tonight, we won't be able to talk about anything that happened in tonight's game. But you can tune in next Monday because I'm sure things will come up from it for sure. So, my next question for you guys: how different is it watching Jeopardy now compared to before you were a contestant?
I have a lot more sympathy now, I guess, for contestants. Just being in that position, just knowing, the short amount of time you have. So I do have a lot more, sympathy and like, oh, yep, I totally did that too. Or, so that's my main takeaway from it.
For me, one thing that I noticed is like the difference between the Monday episodes and the Friday episodes, not in terms of the content, but just in terms of the challengers' demeanors. In terms of when it's like, okay, like I just got here and now you got picked first. I'm the first one up. I have you've done some rehearsal games. You've gotten to know other people a little bit, but it's like, okay, I haven't seen this run. And just like the difference that makes, once you can see it from the audience one time before you have to go up, I think makes a difference in terms of it's hard to be on Monday.
Mm-hmm. And I've noticed, I think I noticed the same thing with the champions as well. I don't know if that's my imagination, but you just kind of see maybe lose a little steam towards the end, because they've done several shows that day. And the other thing I didn't really think about and realize is that it is a cohort of people who are spending the whole day together. And it's like, oh, these new challengers have been sitting in the audience watching the previous game. And so that's kind of nice too.
Yeah, I definitely watch the contestants a lot more closely. I think I used to more watch it for the trivia aspect, but now I kind of want to see, having watched and knowing my own tells where I'm completely guessing on a question, or I have like some kind of nervous something going on. I'm trying to watch them and see how they're playing, and just try and figure out where their heads are at.
Any other thoughts on this question before I move on? Okay. So this one's from the YouTube chat, and one of this week's contestants, Pasha Patterson. This one's for you, Julie. Was there a rigorous selection process for which awesome hair color you'd have for taping? And was there a sequence of follow-ups chosen for additional tape days?
For the hair?
Yes.
Oh, well, my hair, it's semi-permanent, so I can't really change it, but I did touch it up before the episode. Now it's different. And yeah, I had some people like, oh, what's your hair like now, compared to the show. But yeah, I touched it up myself before the episodes. I just didn't have time to get to the hair salon. And so it's kind of like this rose gold color. And it was funny because that was like a really hard hair color for my hair to hold. That's one weird thing about rainbow color hair. Some colors work with your hair and some don't. And I was like, oh my gosh, the only time it actually looked good was when I was on TV. So I'm really happy that it worked out.
I will give, speaking of appearance on TV, I will give mad props to the makeup artists because my skin looked amazing.
Right?
Like everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, you look so good." I'm like, "Thanks." Like, yeah, makeup does great things. Like, you know, as a
Professional makeup and professional lighting. It's great.
Right?
Yeah. It was an intense. I had gotten married about 8 months before taping, and I definitely had less makeup on for my wedding than I did for TV. So I think I was wandering around in my hotel looking for like eye makeup remover because I was like, this is not coming off. This is not happening.
So, this next question is for all four of you. It seems to me like the vast majority of Jeopardy players kind of have that moment, have that kind of origin story, as it were, as to how they became a Jeopardy fan. So I ask the four of you, how did you all become Jeopardy fans?
For me, it started from childhood. It was the tradition, you know, with my parents that after dinner we would watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. That's the order they came on at that time. And I was obsessed with game shows from a young age. Price is Right, like all of them. But you know, as I got older, it's like, oh, like I can start answering some of the puzzles on Wheel of Fortune. I know some of the answers to the clues on Jeopardy from, you know, from my history class or whatever. And the one that they tell is one of my sisters-in-law. I guess she was over watching me and my brother, and Jeopardy was on, and I was calling out answers, and you know, she was significantly older than us, and she was like, how does he know all these things? Like, and just, it was this constant litany of, you need to go on the show, you need to go on the show. So that really kind of drove it. And I do just love the trivia. I love the wordplay clues, and just the creativity of just how general it is, and it's a fun and fast format. So that's sort of my origin story. Just started from youth.
Nice.
I would say for me, because I don't really have any childhood memories of it. I do have Wheel of Fortune for sure, but we just didn't really watch it. But in college, you know, you have more time to watch TV, and you know, I don't know if you lived in the dorms, but you have kind of like rituals where you do things and watch shows together. But yeah, my roommate and I would always watch it, and we were just obsessed with trying to get on the show and being really into it. I remember every time there was a college test, we'd go to the computer lab, and I actually talked about that with the newspaper when I was interviewed, but we'd trek down to the computer lab and take our little test, you know, watch our clocks and, you know, wait for the moment to go. And we'd always watch Jeopardy. We'd always call it, which I know also Liz Fritz does, but calling it a Jeopardy. And we'd always sing that along to a TV Party by Black Flag. So I still do that today, you know. But yeah, that's about it. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember watching it in college a lot as well. Ironically, I think my parents were too strict to let me watch it on weeknights when I was a kid. So I showed them, now I'm a TV star.
Aww.
Well, when I was in grammar school, the Art Fleming version was on at around lunchtime. We used to actually come home for lunch, and my mother would have it on. So I don't know that I paid that much attention to it, but it was sort of in the background then. And then when I was in college, the current version came back, and I would watch it actually with my parents a lot. So I have warm memories there, but I think it goes to something someone else was saying, just enjoyed answering the questions, et cetera. And as soon as the online test came around, I just kind of took it every time. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. And those are all excellent stories. And it's really great to see how the number of people who are still influenced, you know, at least started watching Jeopardy during the Art Fleming version. And
I remember it well.
A little bit, this isn't on my note card, but I thought of it when you brought up Leonard Nimoy, Ellen. Did anyone get a chance to see Star Trek Discovery last night?
I DVR'd it. I haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
I'm really interested. I've heard some mixed things, mostly positive.
Okay. Well, in that case, I won't say anything else about it. I personally have seen the first 2 episodes, but and I will say I quite enjoyed them. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. Up in Canada, we're lucky; it actually airs on television up here. You don't have to get some other subscription service. There's a station that will air that's going to air the entire they bought the rights for Canada, so we are there. It's being aired on television up here, but so there's no worrying about, oh my God, how am I going to get CBS All Access? But so do you guys have any questions that I didn't ask for each other or for me, or anything you thought I'd bring up tonight but didn't? Well, I guess I'm going to take that as a good sign. I kind of touched on everything. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me here on #Jeopardy Live Panel. Yeah, it was a lot of fun having you on the panel tonight for sure. And next week, we'll be here once again on Monday night at 9:05 p.m. Eastern. From what I've heard, I know the show has been doing promos saying that something has been happening, and I kind of hinted about this on Twitter earlier today. If you're a casual viewer of Jeopardy, I would highly recommend tuning in the rest of this week, and I suspect that if you do so, you will quite enjoy that. And also that there will be a lot to talk about, I'm guessing, next Monday night on #Jeopardy Live Panel. So to all of you who tuned in tonight, to my panel, thank you very much for tuning in, for joining me. And I'll see you all, hopefully, next Monday night at 9:05 p.m. Eastern. So I'm Andy Saunders. Thank you all very much for joining me. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Fun.